There's a truth most people overlook in this age of hyper-connection. Not every thought, not every idea, not every spark of vision is meant for public display. We've been conditioned by social media to believe that unless it's posted, it's not real, unless others see it, validate it, like it, share it, then somehow it loses its weight. But that conditioning has a hidden cost. Every time we expose an idea too soon, before it has the chance to take root inside us, we weaken it. We invite the world to tamper with it before we've even had the chance to fully understand what it means to us. Think about it. A seed buried in the soil is invisible, but it's alive. If you were to pull it out every day to show it to someone, to prove it's growing, it would never reach maturity. It would die under the pressure of exposure. Our visions work the same way. The goals you carry, the dreams you hold, the sense of who you might become, those are seeds. They require protection in their early stages, a kind of sacred privacy, because the moment you expose them, they're vulnerable to forces outside your control. Criticism, envy, misunderstanding, even subtle doubt from someone close to you can erode the fire you had inside. And let's be honest, most people aren't trying to destroy your vision out of malice. They just can't see it the way you see it. They're blind to the weight of the call you feel, and so they'll shrink it down to what makes sense to them. They'll offer advice that sounds reasonable, but reasonable is often the enemy of extraordinary. They'll ask questions like, "But how will you make money doing that?" Or "What if it doesn't work out?" And if you're not careful, their doubt becomes your own. This is why in 2025, guarding your inner vision is more essential than ever. We're living in a time when attention has become currency, when oversharing is the norm, when people confuse visibility with value. Everyone wants to be seen, but not everyone realizes that the brightest flames often start in the dark. To protect your vision is to resist the urge to perform it for others before you've even lived it yourself. It's to recognize that your future doesn't need an audience in its infancy. It needs devotion, discipline, and time to breathe. There's a psychological dimension to this as well. Research has shown that when people announce their goals publicly, they often experience a premature sense of accomplishment. The brain, satisfied with the social validation, loses some of the drive to actually pursue the work. That's why so many people speak endlessly about what they're going to do, and yet never quite arrive there. The very act of exposing the vision became its undoing. Privacy, then, isn't just about keeping others out, it's about keeping your focus in. It's about refusing to let your brain trick you into mistaking applause for progress. But beyond psychology, there's a deeper, almost spiritual principle at play. Human beings need mystery. We need a dimension of our lives that is ours alone, a sacred interior space that is not up for negotiation or commentary. When you hold a vision privately, you enter into an intimate relationship with it. You wrestle with it. You negotiate with it. You build trust with yourself in the process of pursuing it. And that intimacy cannot be outsourced. It's the difference between living from the inside out and living from the outside in. If you truly want to live with power in 2025, you have to reclaim this discipline. Not everything you create needs to be displayed. Not every ambition needs to be shared in a group chat or turned into a post. Some things are meant to be kept quiet, nourished in solitude, revealed only when they've become undeniable. This doesn't mean isolation, and it doesn't mean shutting everyone out. It means being discerning. It means knowing who has earned the right to hear your vision and who hasn't. It means trusting that the right time to reveal will come, and when it does, it will be on your terms, not out of impulse or insecurity. So, the next time you feel that urge to announce your next big move, just to feel the rush of attention, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because it's ready? Or am I sharing this because I'm seeking reassurance? If it's the latter, hold it close. Give it the gift of silence, because in the silence the seed grows roots. And once the roots are strong enough, the vision can withstand the weight of the world. Guard your inner vision not out of fear, but out of respect. Respect for yourself, respect for the process, and respect for the extraordinary life that is waiting to emerge from within you. Not everything sacred should be shared. Some things are meant to be lived first, proven through action, and revealed only when they're strong enough to stand on their own. The seed that is kept in the dark is the seed that eventually breaks through the soil. Keep your vision private long enough for it to grow, and when it finally reveals itself, it won't just be seen, it will be undeniable. There's another layer of privacy that's rarely spoken about, yet it may be even more important than guarding your vision. It's the protection of your emotional vulnerabilities. We live in a culture where pain is turned into performance, where people take their heartbreak, their anxiety, even their traumas, and broadcast them in real time, hoping that likes, comments, and digital empathy will somehow translate into healing. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Validation is not the same as healing. Exposure is not the same as processing. And every time you turn your wounds into content, you risk deepening the very emptiness you were trying to fill. Vulnerability, in its truest sense, is sacred. It's the rawest part of your humanity, the place where your soul is most tender. When it is handled with care, in the right environment, vulnerability has the power to transform. It can deepen intimacy, build trust, and open doors to genuine connection. But when it is thrown out into the void of public opinion, it gets cheapened, it loses its depth, the sacred becomes spectacle. And instead of walking away stronger, you often walk away more fractured, more dependent on others to remind you that you're okay. Think about how often you've seen this play out. Someone shares their struggles online, maybe heartbreak, maybe rejection, maybe depression. For a moment, they're flooded with support. The comments pour in, "Stay strong, you've got this, we love you." And in that moment, it feels good. It feels like medicine, but a week later, the struggle is still there. The pain hasn't disappeared. And now, layered on top of it, is the quiet anxiety of having given too much of yourself to an audience that has already moved on. That's the tragedy of public vulnerability. People care for a moment, but rarely for the long haul. What feels like support often dissolves into silence, and silence can cut deeper than the pain itself. The human psyche is not designed to process its deepest struggles on a stage. Healing requires privacy, containment, the quiet space to actually feel without performing. It requires a small circle of trust, not a crowd. When you share your vulnerabilities with everyone, you strip them of their intimacy, and intimacy is the very condition that makes vulnerability transformative. There's also a philosophical dimension here. Your pain is not entertainment. Your heartbreak is not content. Your struggles are not public property. When you give them away too freely, you risk reducing your humanity into something consumable. And once you've made a habit of turning your inner life into spectacle, you start to lose touch with the very line between who you are and who you're performing to be. You stop asking, "What do I feel?" and instead start asking, "How will this look? How will people respond to this?" And that shift can quietly rob you of your authenticity. Protecting your emotional vulnerabilities is not about building walls or pretending to be invulnerable. It's about discernment. It's about knowing who has earned the right to hear your story. It's about creating sacred spaces, whether with a trusted friend, a mentor, or even within the privacy of your own journal, where your soul can bleed without being judged or consumed. The paradox of vulnerability is that it is most powerful when it is selective. It is not a performance for the many, it is an offering to the few who can hold it with reverence. And let's not forget, there are people in your life who thrive on the weakness of others, people who, consciously or not, weaponize what you reveal. When you share your struggles indiscriminately, you invite exploitation. Not everyone who smiles at you wants the best for you. Some want access. Some want information. Some want leverage. Privacy is protection, not paranoia. It is wisdom in a world where trust must be earned, not assumed. The great paradox of our time is that while technology has made it easier to share, it has also made it harder to heal. The digital world is fast, shallow, and fleeting. Healing is slow, deep, and enduring. They do not coexist easily, which means you have to choose. You can either cheapen your struggles by making them public prematurely, or you can preserve their dignity by working through them in the quiet spaces of your life. So, the next time you feel that pull to announce your heartbreak, your fears, your anxieties to the world, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because it's ready to be seen, or because I don't know how to sit with it myself? Am I seeking comfort, or am I truly seeking healing? The answer to that question will tell you what to do. Protect your vulnerabilities, not because they make you weak, but because they are part of your strength. They are sacred ground. They are proof that you are human, proof that you can feel, proof that you are alive. And anything sacred deserves protection. So remember this: what you protect strengthens, what you expose recklessly weakens. Guard your emotional life as you would guard your most precious treasure, because that's exactly what it is. Healing doesn't require an audience, it requires courage, privacy, and the quiet work of the soul. There's another area of life where privacy isn't just wise, it's essential, and that's your relationship with money. In 2025, we live in a world where wealth has become performance. People are pressured to prove their status not through character, not through contribution, but through what they own, what they post, and what they can display to others. Scroll through your feeds and you'll see it. Luxury cars photographed from the perfect angle, vacations captured not for memory but for status, bank balances and investment wins hinted at as if financial disclosure is the new form of credibility. But what's often missed in all of this noise is the silent power of privacy. Money is one of the most emotionally charged subjects in human life. It carries with it identity, security, ego, fear, and status. And because it touches so deeply on the human psyche, it is one of the easiest areas for envy to grow, for comparison to take root, and for misunderstanding to fester. When you reveal too much of your financial world, whether that's your income, your savings, your debt, or even your dreams of wealth, you invite unnecessary pressure. You give people a doorway into a part of your life they don't need access to. Some will judge you for having too little, others will envy you for having too much. And both forms of attention are equally corrosive. Think about the relationships that have been strained by money talk. Friends who once celebrated each other now feel tension when one begins to succeed financially. Family members who start to expect handouts or favors once they learn of your income. Colleagues who subtly resent your progress. It's not always malicious, it's often unconscious. Money triggers emotions that people don't even realize they have. And when your financial life is too exposed, you become a target of those projections. Privacy then becomes a shield. It is not secrecy born of shame. It is discernment born of wisdom. It's the recognition that your financial boundaries are part of your dignity. No one needs to know how much you earn. No one needs to know how much you've invested. No one needs to know your struggles or your victories unless they are directly part of that conversation. Protecting this area of your life allows you to move with freedom. You're no longer performing your wealth or your lack of it for an audience. You're living it quietly on your terms. There's also a philosophical point to consider. When money becomes public, it ceases to be just a tool. It becomes a symbol. And symbols are easily distorted. People will attach meaning to your financial state that doesn't reflect who you are. If you're doing well, some will assume arrogance. If you're struggling, some will assume failure. But money, stripped of all illusions, is simply a resource. It says nothing about your worth as a human being. The tragedy is that in exposing too much, we allow society to define us through a number that was never meant to capture the fullness of who we are. And there's another danger. Once your finances are open to everyone, you may begin to measure yourself by how others react to them. Instead of asking, "Am I secure? Am I building the life I want?" you begin asking, "Do they think I'm successful? Do they see me as valuable?" That shift corrodes your independence. You become enslaved not to money itself, but to the perception of money. Privacy liberates you from that trap. It keeps your focus where it belongs, on what money enables in your life, not on what it proves to others. Financial privacy also guards against exploitation. Opportunists exist, and they often prey on those whose financial lives are too visible. Whether it's being targeted for loans, manipulation, or even fraud, too much disclosure increases your vulnerability. Boundaries are not just about emotional safety, they are about practical safety. Protecting your financial details is an act of self-preservation in a world where information is a form of power. But beyond all the psychology, beyond all the philosophy, there's a quiet dignity in financial privacy. It allows you to carry your success without flaunting it, and your struggles without broadcasting them. It keeps you rooted in humility when you have much, and in dignity when you have little. It's not about hiding. It's about refusing to let your life be defined by one dimension of existence. So in 2025, resist the temptation to put a price tag on your identity. Resist the urge to measure yourself against what others flaunt, or to flaunt what you think will measure you against them. Keep your financial world private, not as an act of fear, but as an act of power, because power is quiet. Power doesn't need to announce itself, it simply is. And if there's one truth you carry with you, let it be this: money is not your worth, it is your tool. And the more privately you protect it, the more freely you can use it to build a life that is truly your own. There is one more area of privacy that is often overlooked, yet it may be the foundation that holds everything else together. It's your spiritual life, your moral compass, the deep convictions you carry about who you are, what you believe, and how you choose to live. In a culture where everything is performed, even faith, even values, even principles, it becomes dangerously easy to trade authenticity for approval. And when that happens, your compass, your inner north, no longer points to truth, it points to the crowd. Think about how this shows up in the modern world. People declare their beliefs, not because they are lived convictions, but because they are trending opinions. They share their faith, not as an intimate relationship with the divine, but as a way to signal virtue to others. Spirituality becomes performance, morality becomes branding, and the tragedy is that what was once deeply personal, what was once meant to guide you from the inside, becomes hollow the moment it depends on applause. Your values are not meant to be content. They are not meant to be paraded for validation. They are meant to be lived quietly, consistently, even when no one is watching. In fact, that's the truest test of integrity. Not what you say you believe, but what you live when there is no audience. To preserve your spiritual and moral compass, you must protect it from being distorted by external judgment. Because once your convictions are put on trial in the public square, they stop being yours. They become something you defend, explain, negotiate. And anything that must constantly be defended eventually gets diluted. There's a psychological cost to this as well. When your beliefs are constantly performed, you begin to live split between two selves, the self you are and the self you want others to see. And the more you curate that outer self, the more fragile your inner life becomes. You begin to question whether your convictions are truly yours or simply inherited, whether they arise from genuine experience or just the desire to belong. That fragmentation breeds insecurity, and insecurity always erodes peace. Privacy, then, is not just protection, it's wholeness. It's the ability to say, "This is what I believe, this is how I live, and I don't need anyone else's approval to validate it." Philosophically, this is about something even deeper, the difference between being rooted and being swayed. A tree that grows shallow roots topples with the first storm. A person whose convictions are shallow falls with the first criticism. But a tree with deep roots can withstand any wind, and a person whose compass is anchored privately, deeply, authentically, can face anything without losing direction. Privacy gives those roots space to grow. It allows you to wrestle with your questions in silence, to refine your beliefs without the noise of external judgment. It gives you the freedom to doubt, to explore, to deepen without the pressure of performance. And yet, this doesn't mean you live hidden. It doesn't mean you never speak of what you believe. It means when you do, it comes from a place of quiet strength, not from the need to be affirmed. It means your life itself becomes the proof of your convictions, not the declarations you post or the arguments you make. There is a power in being the kind of person whose values are evident in their presence, not in their performance. We must also recognize that your spiritual and moral compass is often the most personal part of your identity. It touches the very essence of who you are. To expose it carelessly is to give people the sharpest tool to wound you. Not everyone who hears your beliefs will honor them. Some will ridicule, some will attack, some will twist. And while you cannot control that, you can control what you give them access to. Protecting this part of yourself is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that not everyone deserves to walk on sacred ground. In 2025, when values are constantly politicized, commercialized, and weaponized. The greatest act of strength is to keep your compass pure, to live by it quietly, to let your consistency speak louder than your declarations, because words can be faked, performances can be staged, but authenticity, lived authenticity, cannot be imitated. So preserve this part of yourself. Keep your faith private enough to remain authentic, your principles private enough to remain untouchable, your compass private enough to remain true. And when you choose to share them, let it be because you've lived them long enough that they no longer need defense. They simply shine through your life. Remember this, your compass doesn't need to be broadcast to guide you. It just needs to stay steady within you. And the more you protect it from the noise of the world, the more clearly it will lead you through it. Because at the end of the day, applause fades, opinions shift, cultures change, but the compass you protect will always point you home.